Salt Strong Nation, Joe Simons like diamonds, got Luke Simons like diamonds talking about knots. This is Knots 101. This comes up a lot. We kind of put ourselves on the map with that knot. It was me filming with I believe a bush light in hand, and you doing the FG knot over that red poker table.
That's an excellent knot. That's not one you have to know, but it is an excellent knot. And so we're going to cover just the must-know knots for beginners, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, that question comes up. Man, what about this knot and this knot? And I think you can overcomplicate it. Knots are incredibly important, and it's one of the few things in fishing that's really under our control, right? So it's very important. But also, people ask me a lot, man, you must know a ton of knots. Honestly, I know about 3. I mean, I know how to tie their knots, but I only use about 3 knots day in and day out for inshore saltwater fishing. So we're gonna start off by simplifying it, showing like, here's the 3 knots you must know. If you only know these, they're all good enough. Actually, they're great and good enough. And after that, if you wanna explore some other ones, cool, but you don't have to know that many knots.
Yeah, and this will be even simple. We're just gonna make it 2. So it's 1 loop knot and then 1 snug knot. The reason why you need to know loop knot, especially if you're using lures, you need that loop knot to give it the freedom of motion. Yes, you can use those clips. I know a lot of people use them, but that's just added hardware onto the system. It's not the best. And in the loop knot, I'll show you an easy loop knot. It literally takes about 8 to 10 seconds after some practice, and it's plenty strong enough. And just as importantly, the tag end goes back towards the lure, so that if you're using a weedless soft plastic like this, the tag end is facing back, so it's not gonna snag on to weeds or anything like that. It's gonna significantly help you catch more fish, and that's what it's all about. So let's go ahead and get started.
What do we got here? What leader?
So this is 30-pound leader, just so you can see it, but usually I use 20 for inshore, unless there's big snook around. But what this is called the non-slip loop knot, and there's a couple different ways to tie. The Rapala knot's very similar. The Rapala knot has one extra turn, but it actually turns the tag in the wrong way, so I don't recommend the Rapala. So how it starts, can you see this? Camera guy, see everything good? We have this black backdrop.
Oh, nice,
Hopefully it'll
fancy.
make it.
This episode sponsored by North Face.
Hopefully it'll make it more easily to see. So first step is just put the lure down and only deal with the line. So just do a normal overhand knot. Get it down to about the size of like a little smaller than like an M&M type size. And as far as the tag end, about 2-3 inches plenty. Now take the tag end through the lure. And at this point, you can see that this overhand knot is right. It's at an angle, right? You can see that angle. So you basically want to just follow the line. So on the way up, you follow the line through that loop, and so you can see we'll just go right through that section.
And you do want to keep that loop small. I've tried it every which way possible, and about that size loop seems to be ideal.
Yeah, this basically controls what the final size of the loop is going to be. So I go through with the tag in. Get it so that the loop, that first circle goes right on the top of the lure, or on top of the hook, whatever you're using. Pinch it down, and now we have this tag end shooting out. Go around the line twice. 1, 2. Simple as that. Go around twice, and now we're going to have to go back through that loop, and we follow the line back in. So in this case, we go in straight on that side, and now we pull it tight. Pull it tight, and now we have our non-slip loop knot, and I'll get some scissors, and then you can see how the tag end is. And there it is. So now we have this knot that is totally weedless, right? It's super simple. Obviously that was long because I was going slow, but I could literally tie myself at about 8 to 10 seconds. And it gives the lure plenty of freedom of motion, and this tests out to be just as strong as the other ones that take longer to tie. So,
and you could do this simple knot, honestly, in what, 10 seconds or so.
10 seconds.
And this is all, like all the videos that you've seen. I mean, we're on episode, I don't even know, 350 or something, these podcasts. And every single time that we're using a lure like this on either a weighted, like a twist lock type of a hook or a jig head, even my top waters, I mean, for the most part, I'm usually just using this exact same loop knot. Yep. Keep it super simple, not having to sit there and pull out a knot chart and, what should I use here? It's literally just this almost every single time. And same with our fishing coaches. I mean, for the most part, they're all using this same loop knot. And that was a big game changer for us. I remember I used to do, what is it, the Rapala is the one that goes up? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so this tag end here, if you can see that, Joel would be going up that way, like north. And so what would happen as you're, popping that off the bottom, it's catching weeds or anything that might be around, any kind of debris. Whereas this, since it's going down, that was a game changer in terms of not having just a bunch of crud on the top of the knot every time you brought it up.
Yep.
So that was a big game changer.
Yeah, this is one of the few that the tag end goes all the way back towards the lure. Some others shoot straight out.
Yep.
Right. That's better than up, but it still will snag some weeds.
So that's not number one out of basically three. I mean, there's only two going to some type of terminal tackle or a lure or anything you're tying on to your leader line, and then we'll do a leader to main line as well.
Yeah. So this is the braid. Really, any sort of.
We're gonna do the other two knot.
We're gonna do all of them right here. This is if you're only gonna learn 2 knots. This is all you need. If you're using artificial lures.
Oh wow!
All you need to worry about is that one.
You're going crazy here.
And we're just gonna tie our full assembly. Right, so to show how easy it is. So this is going to be the double Uni Knot. Super easy, and the reason why the Uni Knot is so good because it can be used for braid to mono, for mono to mono, and
when would you do this over FG? Because I don't ever do double Uni anymore.
Just if I'm in a super hurry, or just for people who are not comfortable with the FG. And the FG is only for connecting a thinner braid to a weaker braid to a stronger leader. Whereas the Uni can be used for anything. So if you're only going to know 2 knots, the Uni is the way to go. This is what most guides use just because it's so easy to do.
But what do you do personally?
I do the FG, and we can show that at the end. But as far as somebody's going to know, just go out and know 2 knots, these are the 2. I use the double Uni for tournament fishing, and it's great, right? As long as your drag set properly, it doesn't matter. So I think it's the better knot. If somebody's only learned 2 knots, these are the 2. So how to tie it. Super simple. We're going to get the tag ends and we're going to overlap them. One's going to the left, one's going to the right, doesn't matter which one it is. And so we just start with one. So we'll start with the leader in this case.
You got what, 6 inches on each side?
Yeah, 5-6 inches, kind of go with whatever you're comfortable with. So what you want to do is basically just focus on the one at a time. We're going to get the leader first and we're going to just do that little turn. We're just going to twist it around and then pinch it in there with our thumb. And now what we want to do is we want to take this tag end and go I always go this same direction. I don't know if it matters or not, to be honest, but just to keep it simple. So I take this tag end, I go around and through the loop and go around both lines. So I just went around both the braid and the loop itself and the mono. And so we're going to do that 5 times. So 3, 4, and 5.
Coming down to the end.
Probably should have done longer leader. Then we can get longer tag in. So now we're going to go ahead and pull this puppy tight. There we are. And just get it, just call it just finger tight. We're just kind of get it where it's just not going to move. And so now we do the exact same thing. This is why this is an easy knot. You do the exact same thing, but for the braid. So do the same loop, just on the opposite directions.
It's like tying a shoelace for the first time.
Yep.
Big old loop, swoop, and pull.
So do the loop, secure it with the one hand, and then just take this loop, take the tag end through the loop. The fact that if you're using mono, if it's a mono to mono, do 5 and 5, but now with this braid, you need to do twice as many. So I do 10 times through this loop.
So going under, I go over to start, so I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. Because it's basically a stopper against one to the other. So wasn't really counting there, but there's 3, we'll say that's 4, 5. Sorry, I got a bad angle on the camera there. 6.
Carry the 1.
7.
And
8.
so why are you going 10 again?
Because this braid does not have very good surface area friction. And so in general, it's 2 times, the braid requires 2 times more turns than mono. It's kind of just the simplest way to think about it.
Pulling it tight.
So now we'd pull it.
Zoom into that, you can see that there, hopefully.
Yeah, so I did 10 turns and then I pulled it tight, again, finger tight. And so now what we have is we have the braid coils right here, and then we have the coils with the mono right here. 5 coils on the mono, 10 coils on the braid. And now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cinch these puppies together, and all you do is just let go of the tag ends, and then you're just gonna grab hold of the main lines and just pull them tight together. And you'll see that they'll just constrict. It's basically each one is a stopper for the other, and that is a solid knot. And again, the cool thing about this knot is that it's just easy to use, and it literally will work with any type of line. I guess wire, I should say, is the only type that it won't really work for. The bad news is that it's compared to the FG knot, it's more bulky, and it's not quite as strong. This is about, with a 10-pound braid, this is a 10-pound Power Pro to a 30-pound mono leader, the breaking point's usually about 17 pounds, plus or minus, whereas the FG knot is around 19, 20 pounds. So again, both are, it's way stronger than 10. It's a great knot. It's stronger than a 10-pound braid, or at least it'll have a higher breaking point on a 10-pound braid than the 10 pounds that it's technically rated for, but it's just not as strong as the FG. So that's it. So literally we just tied a full leader assembly that we can go out and go fishing with. So that's the cool thing about that knot. So now I'll show the snug knot that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, I would say kind of a third, to me, a must-know knot.
Yep.
To be able to tie a snug.
And I guess that you can still use the Uni Knot. So we'll give you two options here. So you can just use the Uni Knot. This is, again, the reason why the Uni Knot is so powerful, because it can be used for both line to line and to connect to lures. So same premise, go through the eye of the hook, and then we're gonna go do that same little loop as before, right? Now you recognize this little scenario where you have a loop and a line shooting out, and now we go through this loop with the tag end 5 times. And then that'll work great for a lure to line connection.
And let's talk about why you need a snug versus the loop. Because I think that's maybe where people are getting confused is, hey, when should I be tying this versus that loop knot you just showed?
Let's get this puppy tight. So we did the 5 loops.
Oh, look at that.
Turn it down. And so, but notice that this tag end, this is not ideal for lures for 2 reasons. Number one is this tag end is now pointed forwards. And so if there's some floating grass or something that's going down this line, it's gonna hit that tag and probably get snagged on it. So, and the lure doesn't have as much freedom as motion, right? That knot will cinch down there, and then that line is just fixed on it. So the benefit of this over the snug knot is power. So this is stronger than a loop knot. Loop knots are almost always gonna be weaker than a snug knot, as long as it's not a terrible snug knot, just because it has the added advantage of having friction around the hook eye. That's the reason. So for just tying to a hook, like if you're bottom fishing or throwing some cut bait out, that's when you would use this knot. It's just when you don't need freedom of motion and you need a little bit extra power. For most of us that are using a stronger leader compared to the braid, right? I usually use 10-pound braid for the flats and then a 20 or 30-pound leader. The fact that the leader is so much stronger than the braid, this is rarely ever the weak point. So, and I actually prefer this to be the weak point, so that's why I do the loop knot. And if I'm using the FG knot with a 10-pound braid and a 20-pound leader, this loop knot is going to be the weakest point, and that's a good thing. So if I get snagged on the bottom, then when I have to power out, in many cases I'll get the lure back. Sometimes it'll get snagged at the bottom and break. The breaking point will happen right on the knot, and that's a good thing because now I at least get my leader back. I can quickly tie another lure on and be back.
And you don't have a bunch of excess line, hanging around.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fewest strands and feet of both braid and mono or fluoro, the better. So
now we'll do 2 more knots. So this is, if you want to learn a couple more for added benefit and speed, here it is. So this is my I don't use the Uni Knot that I just showed for going a direct snug knot to a hook, and use the same thing. It's called the Orvis knot, right? Yep. Same knot. So this is a very fast knot. It's not quite as strong as the Uni, but it's really close, but it's just much faster to tie. And again, if we're using a stronger leader than our main line, which is normal for saltwater fishing because you have to have that business end ready for sharp tees and sharp oysters and stuff on the bottom, this is a solid choice where you can have a quicker knot connection without losing any overall power. So what you do, go through the hook eye.
So tag in through the hook eye. No little loops or anything first like we did on the loop knot.
Yeah, tag in through the hook eye, and so I'll kind of rearrange myself. And so go take the tag in around the line and then go forward, hold it with the other hand, and now go see that loop we just made? From behind, go through that loop with the tag end and then hold that tag. And so now we just made another loop, right? So you can see this other loop.
It's like an 8.
Yeah, we made this other loop near my right hand, and so the same thing, we're gonna go from behind through that loop, but instead of once, we're gonna go through it twice. So I'll go through it once, now I'll go through it twice. Now I'll hold on to the lure. You can see it looks like a figure 8, and it'll start cinching down, get it to about that point, cinch it down on the hook, and there it is. And again, the cool thing about it, not only is it much faster, But look at this tag end, right? Talk about that tag end. I fish in areas with a lot of, oh, good eye. I fish in areas with a lot of grass. And so there's a lot of just grass that'll get on the line, right? The current will take the grass on the line, and it'll slide down and hit the lure or hit the bait. And the less snags we have, the less issues we're gonna have with actually getting issues on the line. So that's called the Orvis Knot. Again, very fast. The tip of the line is pointing toward the lure, and just a solid lure. This is pretty much what I use every time.
And this is what we're using when we've done, I guess pretty recently, some of the weedless shrimp rigs. It's at least what I'm using, right? That allows the weight to slide all the way down to it versus being stuck up at the top. So anytime, a lot of times live bait or using hooks, with shrimp, etc., using this. But for all lures, for the most part, we're using that loop knot. So we got loop knot, the Uni. Let's talk about one more because it's kind of what you were famous for.
This is the FG.
Is the FG knot, and that one video has the most views on it, and it's probably the traditional way to tie it. But you've been playing around with this for 6 years now, and now you do it without using your mouth.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to tie
the pinky.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to tie it, and this is an amazing knot. And it's the thinnest knot you can possibly tie for line to line, because as you'll see, the leader line never doubles over. And it's like a Chinese finger trap, and so it basically spreads. The reason why it's stronger than almost any others, it's the strongest one I found that doesn't require an actual tool to use to tie. And the reason why it's so strong is it spreads the tension load across evenly across a long strand. Unlike the Uni Knot that we just saw, right? Those are just two stoppers, and I've broken that. I've done probably hundreds of breaks on the Uni Knot, on the double Uni Knot, and the break almost always happens on that first hard turn of the line, because the line is just getting smushed and pulled in two directions. So this, you don't have that. So what you want to do is you want to get some tension on the line. This is the easiest way to tie. So what I did is I have the rod. I put a rod in the rod holder. If you're in a kayak, it's this blue rod right here. You can see that tip is bending a little bit. And so this is how I control the tension. You want to have just a little bit of tension on there. That way this braid, which is just so flimsy, it's kind of hard to tie the manual way. Because the manual way you have to thread one, then the other, it's kind of a pain. So with this, I just put it around my pinky, about 4 turns. And now I can hold tension on the line with one finger, right? You also can put it in your mouth.
And you've done it right when you could actually take a hook and put it in there because he's got no blood flow and he can't feel it.
Don't try that at home, kids.
Yeah, horrible advice.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to get just a little bit of tension, right? It doesn't need to be enough to cut off your circulation, but it just needs to be just a little bit.
Like a well-tuned violin.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do is we take the line over the braid. So take the mono over the braid and then go around it and pull it tight. And what that did is that just formed a coil of the braid around the leader. And so I'll do the same thing. I'll try to get my hands out of the way so you can see it. So the first time I went toward the rod tip of the braid. Now I'm going to go toward my pinky, right? So go around, same direction, and I'll just kind of go slow mo so you can see this braid just wrapping itself around and snugging up right next to the prior one. That's what you want to see. You want those coils to be snug, and you want them to be done in the same tension. And when you do that, you're going to have a consistently strong knot. So that was 2, right? So now number 3, right back toward the rod tip, and I'll just show that braid just slowly cinching back into place. That next coil lined up perfectly. And then we'll do 4, right? Same thing. Just let that pull it tight every time. And there's 5. And then go around it for number 6, right? Pull it tight. You see that line, that coil just get formed perfectly in there. That's 7, 8. We start going a little bit faster. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Carry the 1.
15, 16, 17, and 18. 18 is usually my number. You can go a little bit more, you can go a little bit less. But this is what you want to see, right? You want to see all those coils done there in a nice, even fashion. And yes, you can tie this manually.
No, Chinese finger trap.
Yeah, you can tie it manually, but you have to do the mono and then the braid and then the mono, and then you have to kind of cinch it with every so often. But so the coils aren't quite as uniform, so it's just not quite as strong. So I've done. Actually, we had a meetup and we had a line tester there, and some members were tying. Pretty much everybody used the FG knot, but mine was the strongest by about, it was probably about 15%, because I did this tension method and I just had consistent tension across these coils. It's a big deal. So that's the coils, that's the FG knot, that's the power of the knot right here in the coils. Now what we have to do is we have to lock these coils into place. So what we do is we just put the other hand that's not using the pinky, put it right there, just pinch down those coils right at the tip, and now we can let my finger breathe. And now we do this, what's called a half hitch knot. And so this is just a super basic, it's barely even a knot. You basically just go around both lines and they go through that loop, right? And then pull it tight. And that's just gonna...
It's like a lock nut, and just locking her down.
So that's just gonna lock in those coils. And so I had a member say that they use only one of these and then pull it tight, but I tried just one and I had a lure fly off, so I'm scared of it now. So now I do two.
Why stop at 2 when you could do 3?
Yeah, you probably could. I just used 2. But 2 and then lock them into place. And so super important. And so now how this works is these coils have to dig into the outer layer of the leader to hold. You know, right now, like I can actually get my thumb and I can shift them all up, right? And so what we have to do before we cut off the tag is we need to actually put a lot of tension on here. So what I like to do, I'll just show you. I just go around my hand 3 times.
And you could put gloves on. A lot of people have asked, how do you do this without burning permanent? Because on the braid side, it can hurt.
Can you see a good angle on here? Get a good backdrop? Yeah. All right, so now for the tension, right, let me get a better hold on the leader. So what you want to do is you want to pull until all of those coils basically change color. You have to lock in these coils. Let me just hold that last one. I'm going to unwind my hand. And so what you see here now is all those coils, they slightly change color, and you want to make sure that this very bottom coil gets snug.
Black background on there.
That's a very big deal. This very bottom coil is the most important one, because if you're casting this knot through guides, which I don't recommend, but you can do, if you keep casting this knot through guides and it loosens this top coil, then the whole thing could slide right off. But as long as you cinch down this coil, you'll be good to go. Some people put glue on there. I personally don't. But now that this is done, now we can cut off this tag as close as we want, right? Because the knot's now secure. It's not going anywhere. And now, just to build a little ramp, I like to have a nice little smooth ramp. So let me go ahead and get a little bit of tension on the line. So I like to just keep the rod in the holder and now do two more of these half hitches. And it's a lot easier to do with tension on line. So 1 half hitch, right? Put it down. 2nd half hitch, put it down. I usually do 2. You can do as many as you want. Some people do like risotto twists or whatever risotto finishes, I guess is the name of it. Some people go through it multiple times, I guess that's a triple hitch knot or something. But 2 seems to get the job done. You can do as many as you want because the actual strength is in those FG coils. So as long as you get those FG coils, you're good. And then as long as you just have some sort of way to lock those coils into place, you're good to go. And so now we're going to cut off the tag, and that is the FG knot. And as you saw there, I dropped the other knot down here somewhere.
You're throwing the line in the wrong way. I'm having to pick it up every time.
Sorry about that.
Louise. This is a learning lesson. Don't toss it unless you're tossing it in the boat down at the bottom. I mean, he's sitting here having to pick up Luke's line every time he...
Yeah, so here's the double uni that we
I'm not an ambi-turner.
I'm not an ambi-turner. So here's the double uni that we tied. Or I'll just kind of hold them right there together. And right, it's very noticeable which one's thicker. So which one of these is gonna cause less drag in the water, which one's gonna snag less weeds.
And this FG is stronger than that knot as well.
Yeah.
So it's thinner, stronger. And I've now, because that's all I tie, I don't ever tie the double uni. I know how to, because that is one that everyone should know. But I feel like I can tie that almost as quick as the double uni, just because of practice over and over and over again for 5 years.
Yep. But if for whatever reason you're using, like a lot of bass guys are using thicker braid, like 60-pound braid, and go down to like a 10-pound leader, you don't want to use the FG for that, because the FG knot...
And let's be honest, you don't need to be using 60-pound braid unless you're going after marlin.
Yeah, you really don't.
Big
but even like a 20 and 20...
Or a 2-pound ditch pickle.
Even like
Sorry, bass guys, we love you.
Even like a 20 to 20, right? Just need to be careful because because as the diameter of the braid gets closer to the diameter of the leader, the actual ability for these coils to hold is less and less. So even a 20 to 20, yes, it'll work, but just make sure, I would say definitely don't cast it through the guides, because it'll just put that first coil at risk of sliding out. But I go for tarpon. If I'm out flats fishing, I see some tarpon, I'll go like a 20 to 80 or even 20 to 100, no problem at all. Right? The thinner the braid is relative to the line, to the leader line, the better it works. Just because that braid can just so easily dig into the outer layer. But like a 10 to 20 is what I usually use. Fantastic. 10 to 30 even better. And this is an amazing knot. I literally first tested this. I designed my own knot years ago, and it was better than double uni. And so I was testing out a bunch of different knots, and I saw this one on YouTube, and I thought it was a joke. I was like, "There's no way." I was just going to prove that my knot was better, and I was blown away. The very first time I ever tied it, it totally just wrecked my personal knot. When I created it, so now I don't even use it anymore, and it's all FG for me.
Yep.
But the double uni is the one that can be used for anything. So that's why I wanted to show that one first.
It's good to know.
But if you are serious about knots, and you're serious about maximizing your odds of landing a trophy fish on light line, this is the knot you need. You need that FG knot. It's
so
amazing.
I would say FG, and then that loop knot, cray loop knot, or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to end it at that, like, we're going to keep it that simple, because part of why we exist is to simplify the game. We've had many times now on the show, simplicity specialist. And I think one of the biggest problems, whether you're a newbie or you're a seasoned pro, is getting a little bit, just way into knots, right? And so many people, how do you tie this? How does it compare to this? Like, you've spent years now testing these things out and simplifying it. And these are really the knots that you need to know. You don't need to know all the Palomar and Trilene and crazy Albertos and the Long Myers and all these crazy names that get popped up every once in a while. Keep it super simple. And all of our coaches, they keep it super, super simple.
Yeah, and so this FG knot, there's a lot of people say, it takes too long to do, but as long as you do that pinky method and after some practice, it'll literally be about a minute. I can do it under a minute if I'm really, really going after it, but around a minute is all it takes. And that's a small investment of time to get 30% more power.
Yeah, right? And we put long enough leaders that you shouldn't be having to retie this 5 times in a day. Like, we go out for a few hours usually and don't have to retie the FG knot at all. And so we have usually 2 to 3 rods with us. And you keep a long enough leader, and we never even have to retie this thing.
Yeah, and even if you're wade fishing, you can't do it while wade fishing, right? I've done it many times wade fishing. Just hold the rod in your armpit, and now you put the pinky method, and you can do it right there. So it can be done anywhere. There should be no excuses if you're serious about knots. And as far as the speed of the loop knot, let's go ahead and just put myself to the test. I had the snug knot on here, and this is a leader I want to use for
I was going to time you, but
for the actual the lure. So I want to do a loop knot. So just show how fast it's done. So get my way.
All right, let me wait till I got. See if you can do under 15. Ready? No. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So do the coil first. Through it. Oh man, I was going too fast.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
Let's redo that.
No, this is live. Yeah.
No, we got to redo.
You got 3.
I'm gonna try to not go too fast.
1, go.
Oh, dang. I wasn't paying attention there. All right, so I'm gonna try to go too fast and not make any dumb mistakes. Through the eye, through the loop, go around it twice, through the loop again, and we're done.
All right, so that's 15 seconds.
All right, that's not bad. I fumbled a little bit there at the beginning.
Total. And I
there it is.
Didn't really even enough of a warning, but yeah, 14, 15 seconds.
So it's really not too hard, right? These knots are not hard to tie. They don't take long. It just takes a little bit of practice. And then once you do, like this has been the ultimate. I've tested out a ton of knots over the years. This is a little bit shorter leader than I normally tie. But this combo, the FG knot, as Joe was saying, the FG knot and the loop knot, if you're serious about using artificial lures, this is really tough to beat.
Yep.
Granted, those other knots will work, but just make sure you know a good loop knot, and make sure you have a really good knot that you trust for line to line. Because when you do this, a lot of people ask about swivels. I don't use swivels for multiple reasons. Number one is that the strength of this knot is better than any knot that I can find direct to swivel. So the fact that these lines can kind of mesh together, whereas a swivel you're tying a line to a hard surface, the meshing actually helps increase the tension breaking point. So like this combination, I've had the breaking point go over 20 pounds multiple times, and I still haven't found a knot that on 10-pound braid can consistently get over like the 19, 20-pound range, whereas the FG will.
Yeah, I think what people do with the swivel is they see this hard, steel piece of terminal tackle, and they compare it against that. Well, of course, a swivel, you can't cut through a swivel. It's stronger, but you still got to tie a knot to a swivel. Yeah. You still got to use the same thing. And
it's weight on the line, like in many cases, fishing the flats, right? If you're using a shrimp lure, you don't want your line to be even with the lure, because now if you're going over a fish, that line is going to hit the fish before the lure gets to it, and that fish is gone.
Yep. Go ahead. Casting through guides, because you'll do it yourself, even if you're super experienced. There's times you have a long leader when you start the morning. We're casting through our guides many times with FG knot. If you start casting through your guides, especially with a lot of force, with a swivel, adios. That's horrible. Yep. We haven't used any swivel. I think I own some somewhere, but they're not in my tackle bag.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with swivels, I did a test on this, because for spoons, this is the time I used to use swivels. Now I don't, because I thought that swivels would take away the ability of, would take the twist away from the spoon rotating. But if you're using braid, the braid is it just twists so easily that the braid will be twisted. It takes less energy to twist the braid than it does for the swivel to rotate. So I did a test got a camera up super close. I'll try to put a link down below, try to remember to do that. But I did a test where I was twisting the braid, and I would see how many turns on the braid it would take before the swivel would move. And it was like 10 turns per inch. Something where if you have that many twists on your braid, your braid is twisted up pretty bad. So long story short, the swivels for braid really don't make much help for twisting, and it seems to cause more harm than good overall. So for that reason, again, learn a good knot, and this will be more powerful and more effective than using swivels.
Cool. I'll tell you one other thing. If you guys are hearing this or listening to it, it means we made it home safely. Joe, can you just scan around?
It's foggy.
It's 10:30 right now. We got out here and we were scared to death. You could not see anything. And we thought as soon as the sun came up, we'd be able to see. There's a road right there. You guys maybe have heard some of the honks in the background. I think it's over there. I can't see it, but there should be a bridge and something right over there, and we can't see anything. All the way around us, that's crazy.
A little bit spooky.
What a wild day. But that's part of our guide is. Part of our gig is helping you and guide you and navigate you through the tough, crazy times when you can't see stuff. So if you guys enjoy this, let us know down below. Let us know if you have any questions about knots. As I said, Luke has spent a lot of time. He's very engineer-minded and oriented, and just loves. We spent $1,800, I believe, on that knot strength tester. So you've tested this stuff, not just by, hey, I think this is better, but legitimately testing it. And you always have to put together, because there is a knot. The PR knot is probably stronger than the FG knot.
That's the only knot that I've tested that is better.
But you have to have a toolkit and a toolbox and a lighter, and you have to have 15 minutes of time to tie it. And so
you're exaggerating. And you have to have a bobbin, and then you have to spin it around perfectly. There's no way you can do it.
Of course, I'm exaggerating, but
there's no way you can do it in an actual in the environment. At least it would be really tough.
Yeah,
it's just not worth it.
It's what the offshore guides are doing, and they're doing this the day before, in a tackle store or tackle room. Anyhow, you have to obviously go back and forth on speed and also strength, and the knots we showed you are the best of both. Right, for doing it fast and also giving the most strength. And it's all you need, just to be simple. And go back, you touched on it very early about, you said, well, as long as you have your drag settings right, because this is something a lot of people screw up. And they see some reels, it's got 30 pounds of drag. You would never need that. Your knots would already be snapped. So talk about that real quick, and we'll kind of end it on the importance of drag in conjunction with your knots?
Yeah, so when knots are most important is if your drag set properly, your knot should never break. Right, that's just the lesson number one. And the set properly part is it needs to be.
I hear a boat coming in the.
Yeah, we gotta keep an eye for that boat. So it
still
needs
got
to
your lights
be.
on, right?
Yeah, we still have lights on. But it needs to be. It's like 25-ish% of the strength of your weakest line. So like in our case, or in my case, I'm almost always using a 10-pound braid to a 20-pound leader. Right. Forget about the 20. It's 25% of the 10. So that's 2.5 pounds for that if you don't have a calculator on hand. That's really not much drag, right? And that's the technically proper amount you want. And the reason why is because when you're actually fishing, right, if you have a fish, say hits 100 feet out and it's ripping line, it's very rare that they're going in a perfectly straight line. They're usually going off to an angle. And that lower level is accounting for all the drag that the line has in the water. So even though the drag is going out at 2.5 pounds here, the actual fish feels much more because it's pulling the line. It's actually pulling all the drag of the line that's hitting the fish's side. So if you have your drag set too tight, which a lot of people do, now as soon as that big fish of a lifetime gets hooked, it's ripping line out. You feel, say you have it at 5 pounds, right? You feel 5 pounds here, that fish is now feeling 15 plus pounds probably, and that fish is gone, right? Because it's gonna break. So very, very important is to actually pay attention to your drag set. And you can do it with a really cheap scale, or just get some little barbells, those little like 2 pound, some that make it 2.5 pounds,
Yep.
and literally just get it on there and just hold it upside down and just make sure that it's basically right there at the level. And then once you do it a few times, you can just kind of get used to it and get the feel test. But that's it.
Real quick, there's a boat right over there.
I hear them.
I mean, that is so spooky.
At least they're going slow, so they're being safe.
So spooky. If you guys ever out here in the fog glades, be super careful. Like, we're probably just gonna sit here and chill for a bit. That's nuts.
Yeah, so
it's right over there.
So as far as why should I if the drag set properly, I'll never break off. Why should I maximize my knot strength? The reason why is because if you're going after redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, really any other ambush species, they're almost always holding near structure. And you want to get your lures in structure, or at least as close as possible to it. And so you're going to get snagged. And so I've significantly have increased the amount of lures I've saved by going from the double uni to the FG knot. The double uni is what I used to use, and getting snagged, I would obviously recover a good amount of lures, but it was a noticeable increase when I switched to the FG because it's 30% stronger. Or if you have a fish of lifetime and you have to get it out of the structure, then you can give it a little bit more.
Every little bit helps.
A little bit more power. So I significantly, if you're on the fence with trying it, just try it. Try it out and try the FG. And we'll put a link down below for a detailed video that's much closer than this one. And we also have some PDFs that show every step, with pictures. And so we'll put a link down below. PDF for all these knots, really. We have those on our website, and we actually have a ranking of all the top knots. So it's all the knots I've tested for both the slug knots, the loop knots, the braid to mono, like the mono to mono, the braid to braid. For all those connections, whatever you need, it's on that page, and it's all ranked based on how they performed. So we'll put a link down below, or you can go to saltstrong.com/knots to see that info.
Yep, so that's it. Hopefully that was helpful. And we have a whole library of different PDFs and cheat sheets for every single season, for every type of structure and even area. And that's all free to our Insider members. So just one more reason to join the Insider Club. That is, where we're helping you find the fish every single trip, regardless if you're in Texas or Florida or Virginia, or anywhere in between that has, redfish and speckled trout, flounder and snook, etc. And we also help you save money on your tackle. We have a really awesome and becoming more and more robust tackle store. Next year will be a whole lot better. This year was just crazy, just getting inventory, but some really neat things like that new Power Prawn.
Some exclusive tackle as well for members.
Yep, the Moonwalker, another one we just released here recently with some really, really awesome testimonials coming in. So 20% off or more. The Moonwalker right now is 30% off for our members. So helping you save money on tackle, finding the fish. And the last part is finding and meeting friends. It's been really neat as this thing has grown, and we now have almost 27,000 members as we're recording this. And it's neat how many friendships have evolved, including people that we now hang out with and are texting with and telling Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Birthday, and going out having beer with and fishing with. So it's been really neat because the private community we have with our 27,000 members is broken out by region, right? Yep. So you can find out, hey, what's working right now? Where's the bait? In, let's just say, Tampa Bay or in, Pasco County, or if you're in Corpus Christi, Texas. I mean, so we have all kinds of anglers in every single region who are just incredibly helpful. And I love that friendship part of it. It's been nice where it's just they're positive people, no cursing, no negativity. And kind of the final thing, if you're still on the fence, we have a 100% money back guarantee for an entire year. I mean, it's how we wished every company treated us, right? I mean, don't you wish everything you bought or every service that you invested in had a 100% money back guarantee for a full year? Well, that's what we have. Yep. So we hope you'll join us. That's all at saltwater.com. For you current members, thank you guys so much. Definitely make sure to check out the cheat sheet area inside of your member portal. There's some really cool stuff in there. I don't think a lot of, I feel like we probably don't talk about it enough, but I was in there recently, I was like, holy smokes, there's some really good stuff that we've built over the years. So
yeah, I mean, for matching the proper weights to your lures, for obviously the knots and seasonal on patterns on where the fish are going to be and what colors to use under conditions, we really have a cheat sheet for everything. And if you see anything we don't have, let us know, we'll add it. Yep. We're all about just helping members catch more fish and have more fun. And so we will continually be adding to the platform.
Yep, appreciate it. Pray for us that we get back safely. Like I said, if you're seeing this, it means we have, or at least Joel waited back.
Somebody found the camera.
Super shallow here. Look how clear the water is too. This is just, what a spooky day.
Let's go fishing.
Let's do it. Hey.
See ya.